All right, and question period is getting underway. Parliament back in session now. Let's listen in as things kick off here.
National airline flight PS 752. J'invite les honorables députés de se lever.
Honourable members to rise.
Members to rise. Oral questions, question orale.
And with that, a moment of silence for the crash victims in Tehran. 57 Canadians were killed. Now question period is underway. Andrew Scheer leading things off. Let's listen in here.
57 Canadians lost their lives when Ukrainian flight 752 was shot down by Iranian missiles. I want to thank the Prime Minister for keeping me and the official opposition and all Canadians informed throughout this process. But there are still, of course, many unanswered questions. Can the Prime Minister update the House as to whether there has been progress made on returning Canadian remains home, and what steps are being considered to bring the perpetrators of this attack to justice?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the downing of Flight PS 752 was truly a national tragedy, and I thank the member opposite and indeed all members in this House for supporting their communities as we all grieve through a very difficult time. We're committed to supporting the families and loved ones with our priorities continuing to be transparency, accountability, and justice. I told President Rouhani directly that Canadians expect and demand full cooperation from Iranian authorities. That means respecting the wishes of the families in regards to burial. I can confirm that the families that have wanted burial in Canada are receiving it so far, and we continue to expect full transparency and a full investigation from Iran.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
To thank the Prime Minister for that update. Now, here at home, this government has overseen more than $100 billion in cancelled energy projects. And across the country, wages have stagnated and haven't kept up with increases in the price of consumer goods. Food bank usage by people with jobs is up 27%. Now, this Prime Minister has an opportunity to show that Canada's energy sector is open for business. Will he do the right thing, stand with energy workers, and approve the Teck Resources Frontier mine, or will he stand with the activists and celebrities who are trying to shut it down?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, from the very beginning, we demonstrated to Canadians that we understand that you can't make a choice between protecting the environment and growing the economy. You need to do them both absolutely together, and that's how we've both moved forward on historic protections for our environment, for our natural beauty, while at the same time we have created jobs. We've seen the economy grow. We will continue to do just that. We will continue to go through rigorous assessment processes and make choices that are the right ones for Canada for now and for into the future.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, this Prime Minister has made the choice to destroy Canada's energy sector, cancelling billions of dollars worth of projects and chasing billions of dollars of private sector investment out of the country. And it's starting to have an impact. The IMF has found that Canada's economy is growing at a much slower rate than our international competitors. This Prime Minister's recipe is to borrow more, rack up debt, chase away private sector investment, all to fund a massive increase in government spending. Does the Prime Minister realize that that has been a recipe for disaster in literally every country that it has been tried?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, over the past 5 years, we made a very different choice than conservative governments in the past have. We chose instead to invest in Canadians rather than looking to balance the books on the backs of service cuts to Canadians. We've invested in the services that Canadians need to help them through times of anxiety. We've increased the Canada Child Benefit to families that need it, which has lifted hundreds of thousands of people, including young people, out of poverty. We will continue to invest in the growth and the services that Canadians need.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, in our cities across this country, gang crime committed with firearms is a serious concern. Yet the Prime Minister's only approach is the lazy approach of asking people who are already following all the rules to follow a few more rules. It's much harder to track down illegal guns. It's much harder to stop the flow of smuggled firearms, and it's much more difficult to infiltrate gangs and hold them accountable. But that is the difficult work that Conservatives are prepared to do. Will the Prime Minister admit that asking honest, law-abiding people to follow more laws will do nothing to stop crime?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, far too many families in this country, far too many communities in this country suffer the devastation of gun violence. We have taken many initiatives to counter that, whether it's enhanced background checks or requiring sellers to check licenses of anyone who wants to buy a gun. We've invested over $327 million to address the gun and gang violence. We will continue to strengthen our gun laws by banning dangerous assault weapons and working with provinces, territories, and mayors to keep communities safe. But the bottom line is, Mr. Speaker, we will strengthen gun control. Conservatives want to weaken it.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Nothing he just said will actually have an impact on people who are already criminals, Mr. Speaker.
With this Prime Minister, Canada has dropped 3 places in transparency, and this isn't surprising because he's interfered in the justice system. Can the Prime Minister does he realize that this is hindering Canada's reputation internationally? The Right Honourable the Prime Minister. Canada will continue to show abroad just how important it is to invest in communities, to invest in families, and to take positive steps globally, be it by fighting climate change, showing the importance of international trade and the rule of law as part of international bodies. We will continue to work to ensure that Canada is strong on the international scene by helping Canadians here at home. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is a programmer from Saint-Jérôme who will be deported if the Minister of Immigration doesn't take steps. From Cameroon, she has received many job offers. And this type of success story needs to be encouraged. The government of Quebec wants to keep her in the country, and Saint-Jérôme has mobilized to keep her here. Will the minister use his discretionary power to grant this woman a temporary permit to remain in the country until the situation is regularized? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Decisions in terms of immigration can have an impact, and we examine each case on merit, fairly following Canadian law. Each case is unique, and everyone is treated professionally, impartially, and decisions are clear. We are aware of this specific case. We cannot speak to it because of privacy concerns. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Rose-Ève is an example, and there should be a change made. We can't afford to lose a woman like this, who is so qualified, who is trained, who speaks French, who is prepared to work in the regions and to meet the needs at home. Companies are having trouble. The flight will leave at 8 p.m. tonight. Will the minister use discretionary power to allow Rose-Ève to remain in the country? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, We ensure that each case is assessed impartially and in a fair way. And this shows just how important it is to have an immigration system that works to bring in people from across the world to build a better society for all. We know that immigrants contribute in Canada, and we will continue to defend immigration, multiculturalism, pluralism in this country, and the respect we have for all people who want to come here to build their lives and work in Canada.
The member for Burnaby South.
Merci. 4 years ago, First Nations kids won a historic victory in the Human Rights Tribunal. The tribunal found that the government discriminated First Nations kids and denied basic healthcare services. And the Liberals are continuing to take these kids to court. Le Premier ministre a eu 4 ans pour régler la situation.
The Prime Minister's had 4 years to resolve the situation. Children continue to suffer, and the Liberals spent millions of dollars on lawyers. Will the Liberals stop taking action against children and start to provide equitable service? The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We know that reconciliation is something of importance, not just to this government, but to all Canadians. And that's why we have taken so many historic steps to move forward the relationship with Indigenous peoples in this country. We have ensured that we're respecting Jordan's Principle. Under the last years of the previous government, 0 cases were approved under Jordan's Principle. And since then, hundreds of thousands of approvals under Jordan's Principle have made a real difference in the lives of Indigenous children across this country. But we recognize there is much more to do. That is why we're continuing to work hard every day to create better opportunities for Indigenous families.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Taking First Nations kids to court is not respecting reconciliation. Pour 22 ans, les libéraux ont promis de
For many years, the Liberals promised to put in place pharmacare, but there is still nothing that's been done.
who cannot afford the medication that they desperately need, and the Liberals are telling them to just wait. Well, we're not going to wait. We've announced that our first bill that we're introducing in this House will implement Pharmacare for All based on the Canada Health Act principles. Now, will the Liberals continue to tell Canadians to wait, or are they ready to work with us to bring in Pharmacare for All?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
No Canadians should have to make an impossible decision between buying food or medication. That's why we've done more to reduce the cost of drugs in all among all governments. We will continue to take action. We are currently holding discussions with the provinces and territories to put in place a system based on the Hoskins report. We are reducing costs for families by taking further action, and we are setting up the Canada Pharmaceutical Agency. We will continue to reduce the cost of medication for all Canadians.
Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, we now have 2 confirmed cases of the coronavirus in Canada. There is still justifiable reason to be concerned about the current measures in place. Health officials stated that there's a likelihood of other cases in Canada. Respectfully, to the Minister, what is the plan knowing that more cases are likely, and how can Canadians be assured that this spread is being properly contained?
Minister of Health.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And I will say that the risk to Canadians remains low. Our systems continue to work extremely closely together and collaborate, which allows us to quickly identify people who have the virus and treat them appropriately. We'll continue to monitor the situation and add resources as necessary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Edmonton Riverbend.
Mr. Speaker, the National Emergency Antiviral Stockpile was created to ensure that antivirals can be accessed quickly in response to an influenza pandemic. Canadians need to be sure that the government is maintaining enough antiviral drugs to treat people and keep more people from getting sick. Can the Health Minister confirm that there's enough antiviral drugs in the National Emergency Stockpile to address a possible broader outbreak?
National Health Minister.
Well, thank Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for his excellent question. In fact, there isn't a particular antiviral developed for this coronavirus, as it is relatively new. But I can tell you that Canada's research community is working closely with our international partners. The fact that we have a copy of the live virus allows us to continue that research, and our labs are well prepared to be part of the international solution to finding immunization. Thank you.